Hello, math students. This is Module 1, Ratios and Unit Rates, and we are starting Lesson 5 called Equivalent Ratios Defined Through the Value of a Ratio. The goal for today's lesson is, today we are going to learn how to use the value of a ratio to make and find equivalent ratios. The question that I want you to be thinking about in this lesson is, how is the value of a ratio related to a ratio? Okay, things to remember. Show what you know. So we're going to do a little bit of practice to make sure that we are paying attention to all the little things that we have to keep in mind. In the show what you know, please turn the following ratios into their value of a ratio. If you've forgotten what to do, I gave you a little hint, and it says, think of another way to write the ratio. So we talked about 3 different ways, okay? One of the ways that we have been working a lot with is when you write a ratio, you use a colon. Another way to write a ratio is to use the word to. And then the third way to write it is using a fraction bar. All right, and here is something compared to something. So for those of you who didn't get the hint, the value of a ratio is your ratio written in fraction form or with the fraction bar. So we have a tape diagram, and the tape diagram on this one says 1 to 2. So the ratio is 1 to 2. So if we're doing the value, we just write 1 to 2, okay? So this is actually the value of the ratio, but instead of saying 1 to 2, we read it as a half. So the value of the ratio for this tape diagram is half. Okay, let's try another one. This one shows 1 to 2. This one shows 5 to 10. So the value of the ratio is the ratio written as a fraction, which 5/10 is equivalent to 1/2, which is a half. So the value of the ratio on this one is still a half, or 5/10. 5/10 is the same thing as 1/2. Okay, so now let's try the next one. Same tape, except the ratio says 6 to 12, so we write 6 to 12 in fractional form. 6/12 actually can be reduced to 1 to 2, which is also the same thing as half. So the value of this ratio is a half. Okay, last one, 12 to 24. So write that as a fraction. 12/24 can simplify down to 1 to 2, which is still 1/2. So the value of the ratio for each one of these ratios, the value of this ratio is a half. 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 Now it's a coincidence because these are all also equivalent ratios because they all have the same value. So if you have the same value and you have different numbers, but they all have the same value, then you know that they are equivalent. Okay? So it says, what do you notice about the ratios? The answer to that is they all have the same value. Okay? What do you notice about the values of a ratio? Well, each value of the ratio was 1/2. It's the same. Okay? So they are the same, which mathematically that means equivalent. So they are equivalent. Okay? So that was kind of fun. That was kind of really helpful to help us with the value of the ratio. So remember, the value of the ratio is just the ratio written in the fractional form or with the fraction bar. That was really helpful. Hopefully that helped clarify some stuff for you. Okay, so does 1 to 2 mean the same thing as 5 to 10? Well, let's try it. We're going to write it as the fraction bar ratio, so 1 to 2, and we have 5 to 10. Are they the same thing is the question. So are they the same? Well, let's find out. How do we get from 2 to 10? We're going to multiply by 5. How do we get from 1 to 5? Well, that's easy. We multiply by 5. So are they the same thing? The answer is yes. Okay? All right. What is the value of 1 to 2? The value of 1 to 2 is 1/2. What is the value of 5 to 10? The value of 5 to 10 is 5/10, which can simplify to 1/2. So now, let's answer the last question. Do 1 to 2 and 5 to 10 have the same value? The answer is yes. Okay. All right, give it a try. It says, for every 3 potato chips Mrs. Nelson eats, she drinks 1 sip of water. What is the ratio of consuming things? So I want you to write a ratio of my chips that I eat to my sips of water. Then I want you to write that as a value of the ratio. Remember, use the fraction bar form. And then the last thing says equivalent ratios are not the same numbers, but their values are always the same. So equivalent ratios are not the same numbers. Look, 1 to 2 is not the same numbers as 5 to 10. Those numbers are not the same at all. However, their values, 1 to 2, 5 to 10, 1 to 2 is the same as 5 to 10 because it can be simplified to 1 to 2. Okay, so their values are always the same, but their numbers are not the same. Okay, wow, that lesson helped a lot, at least I think. Okay, so this section right here on the give it a try, you have to answer that in the question and answer section for Mrs. Nelson on option 2, or just answer it in your notes. Okay, so going back to the very beginning, today we are going to learn how to use the value of a ratio to make and find equivalent ratios. Woo-wee! I am so glad this lesson came about because I am 100% happier with that stuff now. Question, how is the value of the ratio related to the ratio? You have to answer that one by yourself. Hint, hint, hint. If you didn't understand, watch the video again because I just told you this answer. All right, my darlings, that's all I have for you this time. I'll talk to you soon. Bye!